Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elle, and today we're going to be doing a video where I chat about my 5 stars of the winter time. So I love doing these seasonal videos. I think they are super fun and I just love doing like favorites and seeing like statistics of my reading. I have read so many 5 stars since December, so this is including December, January, and February. And I have so many good ones on this list, and I am so excited to share these with you. So let's get right into this video because I feel like this is going to take longer than I wanted to. I'm gonna try to be quick about it so I can get through all of these because I have like 30 books on this list. So let's get right into this video. The first book I want to talk about is Passion and Venom by Shanora Williams. So this is a super dark romance. The heroine, it's her wedding day and her husband gets murdered right in front of her eyes, and she's kidnapped and taken as a prisoner. And like the first few days of her being abducted and kidnapped, she's just treated horribly until like the owner of the house and like this like cartel type thing figures out who she is, and he realizes that he knows her from their childhood. And so he basically puts her into his house and is like, I'm going to break you, like you are going to become mine. And it is so good. These books are really short, like 200 pages, but they pack such a punch. I love this one. Really great dark romance, so amazing. Definitely go check it out if you love dark romances. Then I have After the Storm by Laura Pavlov. This is a small town single dad romance. So this is also the 5th book in the series. I did not read the series in order, and you do not have to. And I love this one. It is so good. So the hero and heroine were together years ago, and it was just like right person, wrong time. And she ended up jumping into a relationship right after they broke up, and she actually married the guy, and he had a baby with somebody else. Now it is years later, she's coming back into town to take care of her father, and she sees the hero, and she just is recently divorced, and she's seeing him again, and it is so good. It's super angsty. I absolutely love this one. So good. I love how he is like trying to seek her out in the town, but trying to be like humble about it, like not be super obvious. And it was just so good. I love second chance romances, so this is a favorite of mine. Then I have Wreck My Plans by Jillian Meadows. I've talked about this book so much, but I just love it. This one is just a favorite. This is a Christmas romance, and the hero and heroine have grown up together and have been like family friends for years. Like he is best friends with her older brother, and they've just spent every Christmas together because the hero doesn't really have a good family, and he just has like found a family in their family, and they have always each had a crush on each other, been pining after each other for 10 years. And something happens 3 Christmases ago where he just basically doesn't show up anymore to Christmas. And now it is the present time, and the heroine was supposed to spend Christmas with her best friend, but the plans fell through, and now she's going to her family's house for Christmas, and guess who's there as well? The hero. And this was amazing. Forced proximity, super angsty, one bed trope, mutual pining. It's also age gap. He is 10 years older than her. I love this one so much. It is so good. Definitely go check it out. You don't need to read this like in Christmas time. You could totally read it not around Christmas time, but it is so good. Then I have Poison Roses by Tate James. This is a darker Rockstar Why Choose romance. So the heroine is on the run from her ex, who is actually in the mafia, and she basically runs into this club and meets this guy, and he kind of takes her under his wing, and she doesn't realize that he is a part of one of the most like famous Rockstar bands. And her other ex is in the band as well. So he absolutely hates her guts, but she feels like she's gonna be like murdered and killed by her other ex. So he is like, fine, like you can stay with us. And so she starts having romances with all of the guys in the band, and it is really good. I really like this one. It is very action-packed with like the mafia aspect, and I loved all of her relationships with each of the guys. So I'm really excited to continue on with this series. It left off on a cliffhanger. I just love Tate James, and this one was so good. Then I have Forbidden Hearts by Corinne Michaels. I've talked about this book so much, but I love it. So this is a single dad nanny romance, and the heroine is I think she's like a PhD student, and she's leaving graduate school for a reason, and she's going back to her small town where she grew up. And the hero is a single dad to a little girl, and his baby mama is going on a work trip, and he had a nanny, but then that fell through, and his daughter is deaf, and so he needs a nanny that knows ASL. And that's when the heroine comes in, but he does not want the heroine to nanny his daughter because when she was younger, she nannied before and it was not good. She was just like too young, and he is just like totally off put by her, and it's just like no, but she's like the only option. So now she is nannying his daughter, and they're like in forced proximity with each other. They both have insane chemistry with each other, and this book is so good. It is also age gap, forced proximity. Love this one, absolutely amazing. Also the audiobook for that one, I think Zachary Weber narrates it, and it is chef's kiss. Love it so much. Then I have Where We Started by Ashley Munoz. This is a motorcycle romance, and I love this one. So the heroine is coming back to the small town where she grew up in because her dad has recently passed away, and he was the president of their like local motorcycle club, and she's kind of dealing with his affairs and all of that. And that's when she sees the hero, who was her boyfriend for years, but she broke up with him because he was in the club and she just wanted out of that life. And now he's back in the picture and they're having to be around each other again, and it is so good. Very angsty, and he just absolutely hates her now because of how they broke up. And I love this book so much. Like, this is so good, so angsty, and like there is a rival club that they have to watch out for. It was just so fun, and I love this one. A great beginner series to motorcycle romances. Then I have a really fun novella by Janika Snow, which is Run Little Rabbit Run. I'm pretty sure. No, it's just Run Little Rabbit by Janika Snow. I think this is one of her banned books, so you have to buy it through her website. But this was so fun. I loved it so much. This is a Halloween like stalker romance. So the heroine is going to this carnival to, you know, have fun. And a masked guy comes and is like, I'm gonna do stuff with you, like spicy things. And they do spicy things. And it is like dubious consent, which I do love if it's done right. And it is done right, like you find out, you know, at the end of the book. But it was just a spicy, fun time, but I loved it. It was so good. So I gave it 5 stars. I just thought it was really fun, you know, lighthearted, spicy. Just, I really do enjoy Janika Snow's novellas. Like, her monster series is so good. She does like monster retellings. She had like a Goldilocks one, Beauty and the Beast. Her recent one was Goldilocks and the Three Bears. The other one she did was like Little Red Riding Hood, and they're all monster romances. Super fun, but I really like this one. Then I have the 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I have not read anything by Ashley Poston until I read this book, and it was so good. I listened to the audio. So the heroine is dealing with the loss of her aunt, and she's just going back through her aunt's life, and she's kind of realizing that the apartment where she would spend her summers with her aunt is kind of like magical. Like, it will like slip you back in time, and so she gets slipped back in time to 7 years ago, and that's when she meets the hero, and he's actually staying in the apartment for the summer because they would do, like, her aunt and her would do these like summer trips, you know, traveling all around the world. And so she ends up being there when he is and like slipping back in time, and they end up falling for each other. But then every time she leaves the apartment, she goes back to the present time, and she is trying to find the hero in the present time. She only knows his first name, and when he sees her for the first time, it is so good. Like, very angsty, and he, you know, she and him had so much chemistry in the past, but she's like, it's 7 years later, like, does he still feel the same? And it was so good. Love this one. I really need to read the Dead Romantics, or I think it's Dead Romantics, which is her other book, but I love this one, so good. Then I have Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. This one was another favorite. This is a single dad fake dating romance, so the hero and heroine actually work together, and the heroine is a stand-up like comedy person, and she is about to go on this big tour with all of these other stand-up comedians, but she needs to create buzz for the tour, and the hero is her manager, and they end up trying to fake date to drum up buzz for the show, and they end up falling for each other. But he has a daughter, and they have also been like best friends for years, so it was just a really great single dad, you know, fake dating romance. It was super sweet, and it was very unique. Like, I've never read a romance with a stand-up comedian, so I really liked it. I love, you know, friends to lovers romances, so this one I really enjoyed. Then I have Just Like Heaven by Julia Quinn. This is a historical romance, and I love this one. So the hero and heroine have known each other for years. The hero's actually best friends with her older brother, and something happens where the hero gets really badly injured, and so the heroine ends up taking care of him. So it's like a caretaking romance, friends to lovers, you know, forbidden, and it was just so good, so sweet. They both had feelings for each other for years, and with like the caretaking, they kind of got to know each other better, and I just like adored it. I love this one. I love how obsessed the hero was with the heroine. Like, after she finished like taking care of him, he was like, does she feel the same as me, like, because we're not in close quarters anymore? And I love this one. It was so good. Then I have The Risk by Elle Kennedy. This is a new adult hockey romance, fake dating. Listened to it on audio, loved it. Teddy Hamilton narrates it with CJ Bloom. I'm pretty sure it's CJ Bloom, or maybe it's Maxine Mitchell. I don't remember, but I know it's Teddy Hamilton, I'm pretty sure. And this one was fun. I really love Elle Kennedy, and I forgot how much I loved her, so I really enjoyed this one. It was just a great new adult hockey romance. Love like the fake dating aspect. Just a fun, great time. And I have Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. This is the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and the first book left off on a pretty big cliffhanger. Like, the first book is a fantasy romance, and it is, you know, deals with vampires. The heroine is the daughter of the vampire king, but she is a human, and she is put in these trials with all of these other vampires, and she ends up teaming up with this other vampire who is the hero, and they kind of hate each other, but then it turns to like a friends to lovers slow burn romance. And the first book left off on a cliffhanger and a big betrayal that happened, and so this book was really about like reconciliation and kind of forgiving your partner, and I really love this one. It was a very angsty second chance, so fantastic. I love this series because it's only a duet, like you get their HEA in 2 books. So I love this one, highly recommend this series. Like, the fantasy world can be a little confusing at times, like it's not the best fantasy world I've ever read, but it's just a really good romance, and so I don't really mind about like the fantasy aspect, so I really love this one. I read The Wallflower Wager by Tessa Dare. This is such a cute, sweet, hilarious historical romance. So the heroine is obsessed with animals, and she is a spinster, and the hero is a duke, and he just came into a new like found dukedom, and he is moving in next door to her, and he is like, he wants to sell the property though, and he is like, we cannot have all of these animals here, like this is going to scare people away from wanting to buy this property. And she's like, I don't care, like you can't get rid of my animals. And so they end up having to work together to rehome her animals, because she also either needs to find, like she's given an ultimatum from her great aunt, like if you don't find somebody to marry by this date, then you are going to come back home and be a spinster the rest of your life. And so she's trying to figure out, you know, homes for her animals, but she ends up falling for the hero in the process, and it was so sweet. I love Tessa Dare's romances because they're really funny. Like, there are just so many quirky, cute moments. Absolutely love this one. Listened to it in a day. It was so good. Then I have Ransom by Julie Garwood. This is a classic old school historical romance. Absolutely love this one. So the heroine, when she was younger, her father was murdered, and her and her sister were like taken and abducted and separated, and this really bad guy is trying to find this box that her sister took with her. It's this like mysterious box that his like long lost like wife or someone had, and it's like really important to him, and now it is the present time, and the heroine is kidnapped by that guy, and he's trying to find this box, and she ends up being kidnapped with this other little boy, and they end up like he tells her who he is, and he is actually the son of a, you know, clan leader chieftain guy, and he is telling her about like his his uncle who ends up being the hero, and so she lies and says that she is like engaged to the hero so that he would come and save him and, you know, the little boy, and that's how this story kind of like begins. And so they have to travel back to bring the boy back to his family, and they're ending like, you know, falling in love in the process. And the heroine is very headstrong, and the hero's Scottish, she's English, and it's just such a fun historical, like super action packed, you know, they have to travel together, and she's very headstrong and he's an alpha hero, and it was just so good. I loved the suspense of what was going on with the mystery of this like box. It was really interesting, and I loved it. So good. Love Julie Garwood and her romances. Then I have Say Yes to the Marquess by Tessa Dare. This is another amazing romance from her, but it's actually very angsty. So the heroine has been betrothed to the hero's brother for 9 years, but he has just not married her yet, and she is basically like, I am fed up with this, I want to marry someone, I want to break off this engagement and do my own thing. And so the hero is like, no, like you can't do that. And so he's trying to woo her with like getting excited about things for the wedding, and like it's actually going to happen, and they end up falling in love in the process, and it is just so good. I love how angsty this romance was, and we deal with a lot with the hero's character. Like he just feels second best to his brother all the time, and he just could never fathom why, like, that the heroine would want to be with him. And I love this one. I just thought it was really funny, like him trying to woo her like a wedding dress and like wedding plans, and she's like, I could give less of a care about this, and it was just so funny and just cute and angsty, and I love this one. Then we have Twilight of Embers by Tessa Hale. This is an amazing why choose dragon shifter paranormal romance. So the heroine, it is her first day at university, and she meets the golden boy, not NFL, the golden boy, I think he's like quarterback or whatever, and they instantly kind of have a connection, and he realizes that she is one of them, which means that she is a dragon shifter, and she starts hanging around him and his brothers, and it is really, really good. They all they know that she is, you know, their mate, but she doesn't know anything about magic or that she is a dragon shifter herself. And I loved all of the heroes in this. Like one of them is a professor at the school, so there's like forbidden. One of them is a billionaire. One of them like absolutely hates her and is wanting to reject the mate bond, but they are fated mates. And it was so good. The audiobook for this, if you are an audiobook girly, you will love the audiobook. Like this is a full cast. Each hero has a different narrator. So there's, you know, Joe Arden, Connor Crass, I think Teddy Hamilton, Jacob Morgan, like so epic. Love this one. Cannot wait for the second book. Then I have Loving Romeo by Laura Pavlov. This is another amazing small town romance. I love this one. This is a boxer like slash fighter, hate to love romance, small town. So the hero basically detests the heroine and her family because of something that her dad did to him, and she like has no idea why he hates her. And so she has a bakery right next to his gym, and they kind of start like hanging around each other more, and she is like helping him because she is like making him like shakes, like protein shakes, and they kind of start falling for each other. So it's like hate to love, like friends to lovers, you know, opposites attract. And I love this one. Super solid small town romance, so good. Just love Laura Pavlov's romances. Just adored this one. Then I have Ashes of You by Catherine Cowles. This is one of my favorites of this year. I just loved it so much. This is a nanny single dad romance. So the hero and heroine actually know each other from their past because of what happened to the heroine. She went through some pretty horrible stuff, and she is coming back to like this area, this small town, to nanny for him, but she doesn't realize it's like him at first until she has like the job interview. And once she does, he is like, you know, he doesn't have anybody else to choose from, and he's like, fine, like you can nanny, but he's like nice about it. Like that, I feel like that the way I said that was like he didn't want her to nanny, but he was just like worried about her. And he has 3 sons, and this romance was so good. It's like forced proximity, very tortured hero. He feels a lot of guilt about, you know, being a parent. Like I feel like so many parents feel this way, you know, just like wanting to do the best for your kid and see them, you know, flourish. And we get to kind of see that arc with his oldest son, because he's just going through a lot, and especially with their past. And I just love this one so much. I loved Hallie and Lawson's relationship. It was so sweet. It's forbidden age gap. Maybe it's like a 13, yeah, it's 13-year age gap. And there's of course suspense with her past. And I just absolutely adored this book. Amazing, one of my favorites of the year. And I have House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas. This is the 3rd book in the Crescent City series, and I absolutely love this one. Like, no notes. I think it was one of the best books she has written. So much action, it kept me on my toes, could not put this book down for 2 days. And it's 800 pages, so I love this one, and it was just amazing. No notes, just amazing. Then I have The Notorious Lord Knightley by Lorraine Heath. This is another historical romance. So this is a second chance historical romance, and the hero and heroine were betrothed and were about to get married, but on the day they were supposed to get married, the hero basically says that he cannot marry the heroine and leaves her at the altar. So now it is years later, and the heroine has been writing this anonymous book about the hero, and he is coming back into society after being abroad, and it's like, who is this book about? Like, who is the Notorious Lord Knightley? And he kind of figures it out that it's him, and they start like hanging out around each other, but she absolutely hates him, and he still loves her, and like she doesn't know why he broke up with her, like the real reason. And it is so good, and it has one of my favorite tropes in this one, like secret tropes, and love this one. So freaking angsty, top tier. And I have Requiem by Callie Hart. This is a dark bully romance, and it's really good. So the heroine finds out that the hero is the one that murdered her best friend, and so she starts training to basically kill the hero and infiltrate this like boarding school / academy that he goes to. And so when she gets there, like, he is kind of fascinated with her, and it is so good. I don't want to say too much because it would be major spoilers, but this book is so good. Highly recommend if you like dark romances and like epic romances, hero that is obsessed with the heroine. Just love this one. I have Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This is a small town childhood enemies to lovers, and I love this one. So the hero and heroine grew up together. Their moms are best friends, and they almost were a thing, but the hero was dealing with a lot at the moment, and he really pushed the heroine away, so she ended up, you know, falling for his best friend. And now she's coming back to the small town, and she recently broke up with her fiance, and she is now having to work with the hero. He is like an architect in the town. He's also a billionaire, and she's an interior designer, so they start working on a mansion of like a founder or something in the small town together. And they are just like rivals, but they're also like friends, and it's just such a sweet, amazing small town romance. I love this one. It took me by surprise how much I loved it. It was just so sweet and comforting, and I loved, you know, all of the things about both of the characters. Like, we really get a deep dive into the heroine and her dealing with her anxiety, and, you know, the hero and like why he pushed the heroine away. And it was just such a great romance, and he literally drops like 10 mil on something for her. Like, he's just so obsessed with her, and I love that with a hero, so this was amazing. Then I have Serpentine Valentine by Gianna Darling. This is an amazing sapphic Medusa retelling. I love this one. Chef's kiss, so good. If you want a darker sapphic romance, this would be perfect for you. Absolutely love this one. They have the Sum of All Kisses by Julia Quinn. This is another historical romance that I loved and ate up. This is an enemies to lovers romance, forced proximity. So the hero and heroine, the heroine's really the one who really detests the hero because he kind of had had something to do with her not having a social season, being able to marry someone, because he was in a duel with her cousin and there was all this gossip and, you know, gossip and ruin is a big thing in historical romances. So she just like absolutely hates him, and they end up having to spend a lot of time together because it is her cousin's wedding. So I love when historicals revolve around like a big event, because then they have to like travel to places in like the countryside, and so they end up having to go on like a 9-hour like road trip in a carriage. That was absolutely hilarious. I loved all of her sisters. They're so quirky and funny, and they just like fall so hard for each other, but they detest each other, and it was just amazing. Love this one. Then I have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is another just such a good fantasy romance. So the heroine, she is an ordinary, and in this fantastical world, the kingdom of Ilia is ruled by elites, and if you are an ordinary, you will be killed and banished from the kingdom because everybody in the kingdom has magical powers. So if you're an ordinary, you basically are like dead, like instantly, or banished to like, I don't remember, like the desert or something. And so she's been living in the slums and been like a pickpocketer for the past couple of years, and she accidentally ends up saving one of the princes who was actually the enforcer. So he's the second son, so he wouldn't be like the next king. And she is recognized in public, and she is thrown into the Persian trials, which is kind of a mixture of like Divergent and the Hunger Games. So she has to figure out how to survive and win the games, but without anybody figuring out that she has no powers. And so she gets by being like a mind reader. And the hero is the enforcer, and he is absolutely obsessed with her, and it is so good. Like, he calls her darling, and I love this book. I was so giddy reading it, and I cannot wait for the second book. This is one of like the best romanticities I've read. I loved it so much. We have My American Duchess by Eloisa James. This is another historical romance. I read a lot of historicals, so this one was really good. The heroine is an American Duchess, and she's on her 3rd engagement, and she's like, I cannot break off this engagement. Like, it just can't happen. So she's kind of like forcing herself to stay engaged to this guy, and on the night of her announcement of her engagement, she meets this other guy, and she's just so intrigued by him, and she finds out that he is the older brother of her betrothed, and she likes him more than the guy that she's engaged to, but she's like, I cannot break off this engagement. So this is very angsty, and she falls for her, you know, fiance's older brother, and it is really good. I love this one. Such a good historical romance. Top tier, chef's kiss. So good. And the last book on this list is Through the Glen by Samantha Young. This is a like Highlander Scottish romance, kind of like it's set in the Scottish Highlands. The heroine was a maid at Adair, which is this like manor that all of the books in this series revolve around, and she is trying to get in touch with the hero, who is a screenwriter, because she is actually a very famous author, but she writes under a pen name for this thriller series, and she's trying to get him to, you know, create her books into a TV series. And they end up spending time together and being kind of stuck in this cottage together, and she is like writing the books and he is writing the screenplay, and it was so good. It's like forced proximity, forbidden. He is a little bit older than her. He's a playboy, bad boy. She's very shy, and they just have such a strong connection. I love this book so much. It was so good. I love like romances where the girl is like really shy, but then she kind of like opens up, and, you know, comes into herself like as a person, and this was so good. I love this one. Listened to the audiobook, loved their like Scottish accents, just so fun. This was so good. All right, well, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed hearing me chat about all of my 5-star reads of the wintertime. I had so many 5-star reads. Yes, but I don't feel bad about that because I would rather read books that I love than books that I hate. So this is a good thing, even though this video is probably way too long. But I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Definitely let me know if we align on any of these reads because I would love to know. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.
I was never the one to write up a song for just anyone. I was always the one to find myself lost in long conversations. Oh, 'cause I've always been told that things will unfold if you